All right, so we want to welcome our guest, Thomas Olmsted. And this podcast is going to launch on the 4th of July, which is perfect for this interview today, considering that, him and I have never served or done anything for the country necessarily besides just live here and, contribute. But you have served in the military as a Navy SEAL. So, coming into the 4th of July, what does it mean to you that you think it's just a little bit maybe more than the average citizen?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. First off, thanks for having me here. I'm excited to be here, and especially this is launching on the 4th of July. When you think about the 4th of July, most people think of fireworks and they think of, icicles and popsicles for kids and drinking margaritas on the Strand in Coronado or whatever it is. When I think of the 4th of July, it definitely brings a little bit kind of different feelings than probably everybody else. I think as a whole, when I think of the flag, I have an incredible amount of respect for the flag and what it stands for. To this day, I've been out of the military for 8 years. I still stand at full attention for every national anthem. So when I see the flag and I hear the anthem, it's this deep installed sense of pride that was earned and not just given. And so when I think of the 4th, I think of all the fun times for sure. I think of all the buddies that are still kicking down doors and having a good time with that. But I also think of what the flag represents and the sacrifices that were made so that we could create, the republic that we've created. And it's just such a deep sense of pride that almost gives me chills. I don't love fireworks though, and I've told you that before. They sound,
that's fair.
It's too real for me sometimes. But the fact that the country celebrates who we are, where we come from, what we stand for, and we do it with such honor and such integrity and such character. The 4th of July is one of my favorite days for that reason, because I wish we lived every day with the same enthusiasm that we have for the country that we do on the 4th.
With all the World Cup stuff happening right now, and I think that we've all probably seen enough on the news or social media about how the opinions of just changing or have changed from so many people from the other countries, whether it be Africa or Europe or wherever. It's really cool to see all the propaganda and all the BS that's been taught to everybody or shown to everybody being disproven right now. Not that there's other things that are bad, but coming when the people that hated being the thought of the United States, then coming in for the World Cup going, man, this place is unbelievable. You guys have zero idea how lucky you are, right? And that's where people forget that go somewhere else.
That's right.
Right, we're always going to have problems, and people are going to be divided. But it's been awesome to see just the people that how appreciative are, the kindness. People going into the South and Alabama, the Algerians in Lawrence, Kansas. Have you seen that one? I mean, that one is unbelievable. The Scots in Boston. People, the South Koreans in Mexico. Just a lot of that stuff just warms my heart. I sit in bed and I watch it, and Lana will be like, what's going on with you? Why are you I'm like, I think I might be tearing up a little bit and seeing some of this stuff.
For sure, and I think you should, right? I think at the end of the day, all the news feeds and the polarization of what people see and think, and because of whatever reasons they think that way. At the end of the day, I've been all over the world for the military and just other, and you come home and one, we're a huge country. I don't think people realize how big of a country we are from a landmass perspective.
Right.
We're really, really big compared to a Europe or whatever it may be. And two, each area of our country has such a unique, cool culture.
Totally.
You go to the South and you have your fried. I'm from the South, so you have certain components down there and the way people speak and the words they say. Then you go to New York and it's this financial, crazy big city, and then LA and it's surfers and this. I think when you look at that, the people that come to our country, they look at it and they're like, how does all this work together? And then how do you have the freedoms that you have? I think that's something people miss, is that go to another country, a war-torn country that I've been to, and try to say and do some of the things that you want to say and do. It doesn't work that way. And even in parts of Europe, it doesn't work that way. And we have such an outstanding culture as a whole, that it welcomes people and it drives like a sense of pride, but it also creates like, man, I'd go back to that place in a heartbeat. And even as an American, like I haven't been to every place in the country. Dude, I go to places all the time and I'm like, this place is rad.
Right.
Like I want to go overseas and see that for sure, but I want to see every place in America because there's unique pieces to it all. And from landscapes to monuments to personalities, I think it's something that we should be super proud of, that we're able to create here and able to establish, and honestly just be so thankful for, because not every place in the world, not very many places in the world allow for the types of freedoms that we have here.
So let's unpack a little bit about kind of where you came from and what kind of led you to the military first, and then get into a little bit about what you're doing now.
Yeah, so I grew up in Lake City, Florida, a small little town up in North Florida, South Georgia. Not a whole lot there, to be honest with you. You played football or baseball and went to the military or worked in construction, right? I mean, it's a cool place, but a lot of my best friends are there, but just not a lot there.
Yeah.
And so I grew up there, athlete. That was something I took a lot of pride in. Played football, baseball, and soccer for my high school in Lake City. And then was super fortunate enough to get a college scholarship to play football at Troy University. And then I ended up playing a year of baseball there as well. So I played 2 sports, and went to Alabama. Troy's in Alabama. No one knows where that is. And we were just in the College World Series, so a big shout out to Troy baseball, which is huge.
I feel like they do show up in the World Series, College World Series every couple of years.
So this is their first year, and it was like their sports programs are starting to launch right now. Okay. It's really cool to see because it's a small program and small D1, but they're like really coming alive. But anyway, I went to Troy. Was super blessed to have a really good career there and kind of experience everything in Troy, and was an undrafted free agent to the Miami Dolphins. I went to the NFL Combine, did the 2006 Senior Bowl. I graduated in 2006. Went to Miami, was able to play for Nick Saban and Kirby Smart and a bunch of these amazing coaches that went back to college afterwards and have obviously transformed that landscape. And then was cut by Miami, and I bounced around trying to be an NFL guy and realized that I wasn't that good, and needed to start looking for something else, right? And so that was kind of what led me down the military path.
Were you going through any sort of like emotional, like, oh crap, like what's going on? What am I gonna do? Like that didn't work, or were you just like, well, let's just figure something out, or did you just immediately go, okay, I think the military is probably where I'm gonna go?
No, it wasn't that way. I mean, when the NFL stopped calling.
What position did you play?
So I was a punter.
Really?
Yeah, I'm a big guy, but I was a punter.
Dude, a lot of punters are big guys.
We're the most athletic of the special teams guys. So think of kickers and punters. Punters are absolutely.
I would never have thought you were a punter.
Yeah,
I was for sure tight end. Or
I was an athlete, and I just happened to be a better punter than I was anything else, and it worked out that way. That's why I wanted to walk on the baseball team, because I was like, dude, I can't just be a punter. Like, what are we doing here? But anyway, that's what it was. If I could go back and be 10 again, I probably would do something different, but that's okay. It is what it is.
Special teams position.
Yeah, 100%. Like I'm all good with it. It was fun.
After the NFL stopped calling, you decided you're like, I'm going to go to the military, or I need to like mess around and try to figure it out.
So I actually had a hard time. And so when you're 21, 22, and like you thought you were going to be this NFL guy, like I was an All-American and I was at the Senior Bowl and all these things. And I was like, well, my career is going to be NFL. I'm going to be whatever that is. And then I didn't make it. And I went through like a pretty rough patch where I got kind of down on myself. And I was like, what am I supposed to do? And how am I supposed to function? And, I ended up kind of disappearing for a couple weeks, month-ish, and was running a whole lot, kind of like didn't like who I was becoming.
Yeah.
And, it's lonely at the top, and it's lonely at the top for a reason, because the amount of work you got to put in to get to that level is an insane amount, like working really hard. And then all of a sudden you're like, well, where do you go and how do you work that hard? How do you stay the team environment? And what I always think back on is I let football define who I was as a person. So I was Thomas, or T.O., the football player, right? I was never Thomas understanding who I was. And I spent some time trying to figure out who I was. And that kind of led me down the path of like going into the military, because I knew I loved the team environment. I knew I wanted to do something super elite. I knew I wanted to be a leader of men in that regard. And then 9/11 happened whenever I was a senior in high school. And a lot of my friends went to the military. And so like one of my best friends, Dana Roberts, we call him Tex, he went to Iraq a couple times, and like I wore his name on my wrist, on my sleeve basically when I was playing in football in college because he was overseas. And I just saw that, and I felt this deep sense of pride. My dad was in the Marines. My grandfather was in the Army, World War II, and then right near Vietnam time period. And I had this deep sense of pride, and 9/11 was such a huge impact on me. And so I wanted to join, and I didn't actually want to be a Navy SEAL. I didn't even know what that was at the time. This is back before all the books and all the stuff. And I didn't know what that all really was. I wanted to be a Marine Corps officer. And then I started going down the path, and I happened to meet a Navy SEAL who was getting out, and he was like, dude, if you're going to do this, like, do it this way. And he was probably the coolest dude I ever met. And I was like, bro, he had a beard and he was in the military. And I was like, let's do that, right? And so anyway, I chose that path. And then
how does that work? Do you go into one of the recruitment offices and become like, say, I want to be in the Navy, or do you go like, hey, I want to be a Navy SEAL, so how do I do that? And do you have to go through the same structure as everybody else, or can you just go straight into like?
Yeah, so it changes over time. So back in the day, like before I went in, you would go into the Navy recruiting station. You'd be like, hey, I want to be a Navy SEAL. And they'd be like, okay, great, but you got to be in the Navy first.
Yeah.
And you go get a rate in the Navy or like an NEC, and you go get a job, and then you can transfer into BUDS from there. When I was going through, we had been at war for 6 years. And so like because of that war, they expedited the process to go to BUDS. And so 2007-8 timeframe, they eliminated like the need for a prior rate, which so I'm kind of speaking probably foreign language to you guys, but another job. And they created kind of a fast track to BUDS, which is Basic Underwater Demolition School. And I was super fortunate enough to go in and say, hey, I want to be a Navy SEAL. I didn't go the officer route. I went the enlisted route, even though I had a 4-year degree. There's a lot of that happens. And I got fast-tracked into my boot camp class, and from there we went to what was called pre-BUDS, and then right into BUDS. And, I mean, I'd been in the Navy for 5 months or 6 months, and then all of a sudden I'm in BUDS.
Yeah.
And it was like the hardest training in the history of Earth. And I didn't even know, like, the sailor's creed. Like, I was an idiot when it came to the Navy, right?
Right.
And so, like, but that was the time that we were in, and war was pumping. And deployments were hot and heavy, and everybody was coming back tired and exhausted, and they needed more team guys or SEALs to go fight the fight, right? And so I was blessed in that regard to be able to kind of expedite my process into BUDS quickly. And that was also around the time they got away from having a regular rate, and then our rate became SO. So we were special operators at that time, and so I came in at the perfect time to go to BUDS.
Yeah,
if there is a perfect time.
In your class, like, because you always hear people talk, there was 400 of us and 12 became Navy SEAls.
Yeah.
Is that kind of?
Yeah, I mean, so I started with BUDS Class 281. I was in pre-BUDS with BUDS Class 281. They had like a little bit of a tryout to see who went during BUDS Class 281, and so I think we started with around 350 people in pre-BUDS. And then our class for NDOC and all that was probably around 150, 200-ish people. I can't remember exactly. And then I rolled into BUDS Class 282. That's where I finished. And I think it was 32 people. So we started about 350-ish and then rolled into about 32. And we were a bigger class.
And you were already in tip-top shape from the NFL and...
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't transfer though.
Right.
You know,
but you're like, oh, I'm in great shape, and then you go to this, and you're like, oh.
Exactly. Like, it's one thing to be in great shape, and like in the NFL, your job is to perform at the highest levels with the body being primed to be at that level. So you eat the certain ways, you train a certain way, and you peak at Sunday, right? Yeah. And then, but in the Navy or in the SEAL teams, like your body's just beat to hell, and you're still going to perform. So you're on 70%. And you better go 120%, right? And so it's just a very different mindset, philosophy, body type. I had to lose 30 pounds, and it was a whole different deal.
Because you're what, 6'6"?
I'm 6'4", about 240.
Okay.
And then when I went through BUDS, I was like 6'4", 190. Damn. And then as an operator, I was about 6'4", 240. And I was big and strong. Now I'm old and broken, but...
And Hell Week, can you give us a little description of Hell Week?
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, I mean, none of that stuff's classified. So here's a tip. If you ever meet somebody who's like, my BUDS class is classified, they're not a real SEAL. So, so at the end of the day, like, I was a winter Hell Week, which is a bragging right for sure, because it's cold and everybody's like, oh, it's Coronado. How bad could it be? Fucking bad. and so like I was a March Hell Week. We start on Sunday night and they do what's called breakout, and they put you in your barracks, and it's like, okay, we're going to wake you up and you're going to start this Hell Week, and you have no earthly idea what's coming. And then all of a sudden, you know, they come in your room with blank Mark 48 rounds, blasting, throwing crash bangs, doing all this smoke everywhere, chaos everywhere. You're running out. They're telling you to do all these things, and like there's no way that you can do any of them. And they're like, hit the surf and come back and bear crawl and go left to right, right to left, up and down. And you're just confused and lost, and you're just trying to get through it all. And you know, a lot of people look at that and they're like, okay, this isn't for me, and they ring the bell and they quit, and you know.
Like right there
on the spot. And then all of a sudden they stop that and you move right into kind of a surf passage kind of concept where you're getting wet and sandy and you're just wet and cold and you're knife jacking and freezing, and you know, they'll pull you out, put you back in, and you know, it's been an hour and a half of Hell Week and you got another 5 days to go. You know, there's a lot of great philosophies that come out of that though. There's a lot of great lessons learned around goal setting and like teamwork and stuff like that. I mean, some of the greatest lessons I learned, and you know, fortunately I had some great mentors in this, was like set micro goals to get to macro goals. Like, don't worry about Hell Week, get to Monday, get to lunch, get to breakfast, get to dinner, right? Like, the other thing is you can't do it alone. Like early on in buds, you kind of don't want to make a lot of friends because people quit so fast. But by the time you get to like Tuesday of Hell Week, Wednesday of Hell Week, and you're under the boats with these guys, like you're looking at these guys going, hey, you're my best friends, and we're about to get after it together. And like, you
feel like you've known them 20 years.
Yeah, for sure. Like one of my best friends on the planet, he's over at the squadrons right now. You know, during Hell Week on, like, I think it was Tuesday, we're under the boat together, and you know, they do it by height, so we're both really tall, and he's a big jacked Viking looking man, all tatted up. Like if he walked in, you'd be like, oh, that's what a Navy SEAL looks like, not me. But anyway, he looks at me and he's like, hey bro, you gonna quit? And I was like, I don't plan on it. And he goes, me neither, let's do it together. And at that point you're like, well, here we go. Like this is what this is about. Like, let's lock arms and be badass together. You know, and then like 20 years later, they're still my best friends, you know, from those moments, because that chaos creates. You're
just shivering in the ocean.
Shivering, freezing, cold, tired, exhausted, hungry, boat on head, whatever the pain points that you have are, you know, everything hurts. Like there's nothing that doesn't. And like when I see those guys, I don't talk to them for 7-8 months. I see them and it's like we're the best friends in the world, and there's nothing I wouldn't do for them. And you know, you become, like, there's an old saying, like, to lead is to bleed. And, like, your friendships and our friendships are built through blood and not through, like, you know, whatever. Like, not because you live in the same neighborhood, but because you were willing to kind of put it on the line. And, you know, those that quit were great dudes. They're awesome. I don't talk to them anymore, but there were some great dudes that quit. And you're like, whoa, how'd that guy quit? But the guys that make it are the guys that, you know, you're going to go to war with. And you understand that.
And
sorry. 2 questions. Sorry. This is a 2-part question. When you guys got done and you realized, okay, we did it, we made it, like, what was that feeling like?
So what people don't realize about buds is that it's really long. So Hell Week's the 4th week of like a 36-week course of instruction or something. So there's 3 phases. So Hell Week is the first phase. Phase 1 is in first phase, and then there's kind of a Hell Week in phase 2, which is a underwater pool comp deal, and then 3rd phase is the secret that no one knows about, and it's the hardest thing you'll ever do. Like I always tell people, when you come back from 3rd phase, you're the toughest human being maybe on the planet.
Right.
And I mean, I've been around, like Rangers are great, like Green Berets, all that sort of stuff. Like, do you come back from 3rd phase, you're a bad man. Like maybe not the most skilled operator, but like tougher than nails.
Yeah.
You know, and it's a whole different deal. And then you go to what's called SQT, SEAL Qualification Training, which is another 6 months of training that actually teaches you just how to be a new guy, like the fundamentals of how to clear a room or clear a house, the fundamentals of how to jump out of a plane or do land warfare or scuba dive at that level. You don't scuba dive, but LAR 5, like rebreather stuff. And then you go to the platoon and you're a new guy again. But like, what does it feel like when you finish Hell Week? You're like, I'm just tired. You know, you're actually kind of like, your mind's like a wide awake. Your body's collapsing on you. And you go to sleep and you wake up and it's crazy. Like after that, I was never late for anything. I was scared to death. I was anxious. I had like weird PTSD from Hell Week.
Yeah.
Like you'd wake up in the middle of the night in your bed and be like, am I late? And then you're like freaking out, you know what I mean? But then I went to pool comp in second phase, and I actually failed pool comp. That's why I got rolled to my second buds class. And, that was probably the biggest hardship that I went through in the training pipeline. Like Hell Week was really hard, don't get me wrong, but like the biggest hardship was failing and then almost like not getting the opportunity to become a SEAL, because you can't fail more than a certain amount of times. And I failed once, and all of a sudden I was like, oh crap, what do I do? And that was actually the point where I knew I was going to make it, because pool comp is where they actually put you underwater and you have your scuba gear on, and they like surf torture you or hit you like hard and like take all your stuff away from you and tie your hoses in knots so you don't have air, and you have to like go through certain procedures, and it's an 18 to 25 minute ordeal where you're just getting your ass kicked underwater. And if you've never not breathed before, it's scary.
Yeah.
Right. You don't want to be there. But that was the time I knew I was going to make it, because when I got rolled, I basically had one more chance. And I remember waking up one night holding my breath, like going through procedures. And if you've never woken up holding your breath, it's a weird feeling. Right. And then I sit over the pool deck and I look down into the pool, and I'll never forget the guy who actually passed me for pool comp. I remember looking at him, and I was just like, you know what? I'm either going to die in this fucking pool or I'm going to become a Navy SEAL.
Yeah.
And I'm good either fucking way. And let's go. And I jumped in, and at that point I knew, I was like, I got whatever. I got the chops for this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so let's go. Let's do this. And so
was it easier, or were you still like, oh shit?
No, I mean, you kind of have the expectation, it's coming, so you're like, okay, here we go. But I'd never passed. I'd always failed in the middle of it all, and it's it's like I said, it's about 20 minutes, and I got to 16 or 17. I never got to the end, so I didn't know what it would feel like. And I remember coming up to the top, and like he was actually funny, and he was playing a joke on me, like, well, how do you think you did? Well, and I was like about to throw up, throw so much water in my mouth. And he was like, you passed. And I remember just crying.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
You know what I mean, dude? It was like I cried, and I was like, man, I can't believe that I've made it. Earned it. Here we go. Got out of the pool deck, and I was very emotional about it all. And then I went to third phase and whatever that was. And I was super blessed. I had a great class. And they voted me as the honor graduate of my buds class. So buds class 282, I was the honor grad for getting my trident. And you think you're going to be super emotional when you get your trident, but what you realize is now like the business starts.
Yeah. Right.
Now you're going to war. Now you're going to do what the job entails. And now you got to live up to the standard of the men that had died before you, right?
Yeah.
And standing on the shoulders of giants. And that's all I cared about. Is like, I'm going to stand on the shoulders of giants, and I'm going to do everything I can to not let those dudes down for the sacrifices they've given to this country.
Go ahead. You were going to ask that question? You forget it already?
No,
the second part of the question I was going to ask you was, so when you get put into SEAL team like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever, 8, first of all, how many are there? And like, how do you get put in the team with kind of who you graduate with, or is that how it works?
Yeah. So West Coast has the even team, or one of the odd teams, sorry. East Coast has the even teams. There's a handful of teams on East Coast and so on. And then there's a couple teams that are super quiet that no one talks about, or people know who they are, but you don't need to say too much about them. I have a lot of my best friends are over there, which is awesome to see. Like, it's crazy to be this like new guy, team guy, and you look up to these team leaders at this command, and then all of a sudden now my best friends are those guys. You're like, holy cow, this is awesome. Right. Like, they became the dudes. But so I can tell you there's about 1,500 team guys active duty at any given time that are operational. That's a very small number compared to like a Green Berets or the Ranger Reds and all that sort of stuff. Very, very small number. And we do that on purpose. Like, we don't want to change our standards, and we hold the line on purpose. And so whenever you graduate SQT, then you get kind of your dream sheet. Like, do you want to go to the East Coast, the West Coast? Do you want to be a medic? Do you want to be a JTAC? Like all the different sniper, whatever. And then you go to a team, and most teams you're on cycles. So you work on a certain cycle, and so whenever you're on your off cycle from deployment, that's when you'll pick up all your new guys. So then you pick up all your new guys, 10, 15 dudes, they'll join platoons, and each team has a certain number of platoons, and then you'll start a training cycle. And the one difference between us and like most of the other units out there is our training cycles are long and super hard. Like, we do 6-7 month training cycles, and it is a beatdown. And we get really good at what we do. Like, we become the masters of basics and masters of fundamentals and masters of war So then when we go overseas, we can execute at the highest levels humanly possible. And I'd be willing to say that my time serving in the military, and then now where we sit with technology and so on, that the SEAL teams when I was there was the greatest fighting force in the history of the world. Period. Like there's nobody that could touch us. Yeah. Like in Green Beret, special operations in general.
Yeah.
Right? Like I got a lot of respect for a lot of those guys, and it's all good. But like I would be willing to say that we were probably the best fighting force in the history of the earth.
I mean, definitely the most talked about.
I hate that stuff.
And that's what I was going to get at. So like the misconception, I think, of the world and just how they kind of view Navy SEALs. It's like the buff guy with tattoos and the beard, and like because that's the guy in the movies. And like you said, you were 6'6", 190, then you got up to 240. And obviously we were talking about out there about Keening. He was a cross country runner, right? That was just a genius, right? He was also very, very smart. And I think that people don't know about like the intelligence of the people that have to go. Like, you have to be smart to do this job too. You have to learn. You have to be able to understand. You have to be able to, acknowledge the things that are happening really fast, process things very quickly.
For sure.
So what is that? How did that come into play for a lot of guys?
I think like in the SEAL teams, like yes, tattoos and there's a lot of that, a lot of strong, bad to the bone dudes that you look at them and you're like, man, you look like a straight axe murderer. Got it. That's awesome, cool. But I think like my really, really, really good friends and all this, like most of them are just like they're really intelligent guys, right? Because a lot of my friends are over at the command now at SEAL Team 6, and they're just really intelligent, thought-provoking guys that are trying to learn, constantly learning. Most of those guys are family guys. Like there's definitely a generation of team guys that were party boys, and that's all good. Like I'm not going to judge anybody, and they got after it and they did what they did. And there's a lot of world-class respect that I have for those guys. But like my friends were all like, okay, let's have a family. Like let's be operators and warriors but let's fall in love with the process, and let's become a warrior's warrior. Like be professionals. I think the misconception, and a lot of people talk about it, and a lot of inner service kind of banter, like people talking bad about the SEAL teams. Oh, they were just hard, and you send in the Green Berets or the CAG whenever you don't want people to die because all the SEALs are good at killing people. Yes, for sure, like that's a part of it, but like the guys who are world class, and that's at every level in every organization, are humble, they're quiet, they mind their own business. They're smart. They're super physically fit, but not like a middle linebacker in the NFL. Like they're the guys that did jiu-jitsu for 10 years and Muay Thai for 5 and could take your face and throw it through that wall and not really think about it, right? They're good with that. And they've seen the world, and they've seen the worst the world has to offer, and they carry a burden and a cross on their back that they won't let anybody carry for them. And I think at the end of the day, the biggest misconception is like, I love my brothers in arms. Like my best friends, I love those guys. And like, I think people confuse like hard and tough warrior with like compassion and how much like we actually cared for one another. And I'd kill you over those dudes, period. And I'd still get after it like that for those guys. And I just think people think that we're like these like heartless warriors that don't understand society and all that. And the reality is, it's like, if you can take those same skills and apply them into the civilian world, you're going to be an incredible business leader. You're going to be an incredible leader of humans. You just guide that in the right direction, and constant pursuit of getting better. Like that's what those guys are all about. Like I tell people, like, how many times do you think I've opened up a door? I bet I've opened up a door 1,000,000 times because I need to understand the locking mechanism. I need to understand the hinges. I need to understand it's a push-pull. I need to understand the offset. I need to understand where my feet need to be positioned. I need to understand how my number 2 is going to go through that door once I go through that door behind him behind me. I need to understand how I'm going to work down that wall and what's on the other side of that wall as I penetrate the threshold. I need to understand my scanning components and how like people don't think like that. And like when you're a professional warrior, that's how you have to think.
And do you still think like that all 100%. The time?
Like, I don't think you can turn that off. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, we always actually laugh at each other, like when we're walking. And this is back in the day, so my friends are world class at this stuff now. But like, if you like, you can see the hinges on the door that's in this room right here. that means it's a pull door. It opens to you, right? Because the hinges you can see. But if I walked up and pushed that door, I'd talk shit. If like my teammates would talk shit to me, oh, come on, dude.
Yeah.
You know, and so like just being professional like
You're
that.
You're better than that.
Yeah, I'm better than that. Yeah, yeah, for sure. But I think people don't realize like how professional it is, you know, and like they just think it's like put on your kit and go shoot bad guys. And yes, there is a portion of that. But it's about being professional and about training for excellence and raising up the next generation to be better than what you were. You know, at least that's how I looked at it all. Maybe I'm a one-on-one, but all my friends are that way too.
You have anything you want to go with? Okay, so
I'm just learning.
All right, good. So one of the things that we've talked, obviously you're really big in the Navy SEAL Foundation.
SEAL Future Foundation.
SEAL Future Foundation. The thing that's crazy is the statistic of former military, but Navy SEAL specifically, like what happens to them after they get out. That's why I think a lot of people, they end up going back, maybe do it again, another tour, then another tour, because coming out of it's like you said, you're fighting in a war, and then all of a sudden you're at home with kids, and you're supposed to like be normal.
Yeah.
Like the re-entry into real world is crazy, right? And so a lot of guys struggle with that. And statistically, it's nuts. Like, you know, you're a 1%er. So talk a little bit about the foundation, but also just about the re-entry.
Yeah, so the SEAL Future Foundation is an organization I'm incredibly proud of. And it was actually started by a dude named Johnny Wilson. And Johnny started it for exactly what you said. He got off his last deployment. He's like, I'm getting out. I'm going to go to Goldman Sachs. I'm going to be this Wall Street guy or whatever. And it was like, this sucks. And then one of his friends died. And he was like, I'm going back. And he came back in, and you know, he and I worked together a little bit, so I was super blessed to kind of be around that. But he came back in and was like, man, we got to do a better job at building a pathway or a bridge for these guys to transition out. And I think the bridge is the right language for it, because like you want to build this bridge that allows you to bypass the landmines that everybody steps on. You know, and so the foundation is broken into 4 key components or principles, and one is mental health and health well-being, and a lot of our resources go to that, to how do we get guys mentally well, physically well, so they can go be productive and not in pain and all that sort of stuff. And then we have the community pillar, which is, you know, building the community that we live in and trying to help people get out. And, you know, friendship and connection are so incredibly important, even though it's weird to say something like that as a SEAL. Like having friendship has helped me get out, you know, quite in a better manner. Then we have the education pillar, which helps dudes get into college, and you know, it got me into Harvard Business School, which was awesome, and helped me pay for a lot of that. And then the final one is job placement. So get guys jobs, right? Like give them some purpose, get them back on their feet, give their families some resources, and let them go be productive people in society. And so we start that. Johnny started that. I've been a big part of it. I'm on the board now, but it's something I care deeply about. And the reason I care so deeply about it is when I got out of the military, we were still trying to figure out what the SEAL Future Foundation really stood for and what it was and how to help and all this stuff. And I stepped on every freaking landmine you could possibly step on, you know, from like suicide ideations, and like we're men of action. So like when you start thinking about suicide and you're a dude who'll pull a trigger, it's easy to pull that trigger. Right, I don't think people think about that. Right, it's not because we're lonely or depressed. We're depressed and all that for sure, but like we're men of action.
Yeah.
And once it's in your brain, it's hard to get it out of your brain. And there's been a lot of that since I've gotten out. A lot of sad phone calls at 2 a.m, like hardship stuff. And so I stepped on every landmine, from like, what job do I want? Like, who am I? Like understanding like, should I go back in? Like, should I go to the CIA and just get spooky? Like what do I want to do, right? And like you get out of this program where you're the best of the best. Yeah. I mean, you're literally, what I did as a JTAC, I was one of the best in the world. And like pro athletes, if they're the best in the world, they got all this money, so they get it's easier for them to do it. I got out like in debt, right. You know, and I was like, man, I got to figure this out quick. Yeah. And so, you know, you get out and you got these hardships of family, like reintegrating to your family. Like I had kids that didn't really know who I was, because I chose war over them. I was going through a divorce, you know, self-inflicted or whatever. I was going through like changing jobs. You know, the stats, like 75% of veterans quit 2 jobs in the first 2 years. Like it's a huge amount, a huge number, the uncertainty around it all was just like really like suffocating. And I used to think like I'm going to drive down the 101 and go at 100 miles an hour in my truck and I'm going to slam into a pillar and kill myself. And if I do it that way, it looks like an accident and my kids will at least get my insurance. You know what I mean? And like I was there, like, and mentally I was there. And fortunately I had a girlfriend at the time. She's my wife now, but there were some bad moments, and this foundation stepped in and like was able to really provide me some support and give me some endocrine therapies and give me some mental support. They got me a different job, and they kind of started setting me up to walk a different path and education so I could reintegrate in a faster manner, and so on. And so my whole thing, after about 2 years of really suffering, I got into a position where I was starting to grow within organizations and starting to lead businesses. I just wanted to give back because I'd been there. I'd stood in the mirror and been like, who are you, you worthless piece of crap? Like, you used to be this badass operator, and now you're a nobody. And the mentality was just sunk, and I didn't know what to do. And so, like, the foundation gave me a second chance, because I didn't think I was going to live past 40. Like, I thought I wanted to die in combat in a gunfight because I controlled the outcomes, and now I'm 42, and I'm like, oh, this is all gravy, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, I mean, that's the mindset, and that's the mindset of a lot of dudes. And guys get out, and they we had this old saying in the military, like, suffer in silence. And it's like, man, the more you suffer in silence as a civilian, the less help you're going to get. Raise your hand. Like, there's so many bros out there that are willing to step in to support you, whoever, like, raise your hand. But that's so hard to do because we want to be these independent badasses. And the reality is, it's like, you don't know what you don't know. Yeah. And so I want to give back as much as I can there. But, you want to create a situation where, like, kids get to see their fathers and get to see their fathers for, like, who they really are, not like this broken shell of a dude, but some, like, heavy-hitting dude, right? Like a badass guy. I also think faith played a big role in that for me later in it all. Helped me out quite a bit in my relationship with Jesus and Christ, and how I kind of started going down that path, and that really helped me a ton. In finding kind of that purpose of being a baseball coach for my kids, and like diving into those things.
Which you're Jeremy's kid's baseball coach.
Baseball coach. Yeah.
He told us that today.
Yeah. And so like I think you just got to figure it out, right? But you can't do it alone. Yeah. Alone and unafraid is a recipe for disaster.
I mean, even outside of the military, just men in general.
Yeah, for sure.
Just they don't want to say anything out loud, and you just internalize it, and then everybody goes through those tough times of depression and suicidal thoughts, and just the mental health side of things. I mean, plenty of friends that have never seen that type of action, war at all, deal with that. I think that's a national problem right now.
I agree.
So the divorce rate is like astronomical too, right?
Yeah.
It's like 90% or something like that.
I always tell people we're world-class operators. We're world-class at a lot of things, and divorce is one of them, for sure. However, like, a lot of my friends didn't get divorced. I mean, they fought through it and they figured it out, right? They probably got married later in the whole process. Like, when you get married young, and all of a sudden you're deployed and you're reintegrated, you're deployed, you're reintegrated, you're deployed, you're reintegrated. Like, you don't really know who and what you're doing. Yeah. And all of that, be patient with that.
Because you're still a child.
You're still a child. Like, I didn't have to grow up till I was like 35 years old.
Yeah.
Like, I was a war fighter that whole time. Like,
because you became a SEAL at what age?
I think I was 23 because I did the NFL deal.
And were you married then?
No. But I met my ex-wife early in that process, and like, it was a party, great time. Yeah. I would go on these trips, and I'd go on these deployments, and I'd come back and like, let's go.
Yeah.
And you don't really realize what it's all about. And, I was super immature in how I approached life at the time. I was going to war zones, and I was like good with death. Like, when you're 24, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, you shouldn't like think about like you dying. You should be thinking about like building a wealth or nest egg or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I was like, screw it, let's go. And I was all in. I'd get in trouble with drinking beer, and then all of a sudden I'd be like, I want to die in a gunfight. Like, I was crazy like that, right? And that's just immaturity. Like, that's not who you want to be as an adult operator. I've grown up and all of this stuff, but like, I was immature. I was going overseas a bunch. I wanted to be this killer, kick down door kind of guy. The culture at the time was like, go hard at everything you do. Like we had this whole saying, like, moderation's for cowards, right? And I went hard, and went hard in just in life in general. And being immature and having that kind of mindset, you know, creates that flaw.
And being a badass.
Sometimes, yeah.
So that doesn't help. One of the things that when we were in Coronado, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago, and it's kind of like when I first met you, we met KG at a bar, I forget what it's called, and we're like, where's T.O.? And she's like, oh, he's with his friends over at a different bar.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh, okay. What's the name of that bar?
Danny's.
And it's like kind of a Navy SEAL bar in Coronado. And we're like, it's his friends. She's like, yeah, well, he goes there and has a drink and like looks at all the pictures of all his friends. So basically it's like he's going there by himself to like just like spend time basically with all his former friends that have passed away, which is like, I mean, like mind blowing to us. And we're like, oh boy, like, like, okay, this is nuts, right? Like that's not in a bad way, but we're like, man, this is like the things that like we did as normal people, like take for granted, right? And then we were walking to Morgan Wallen, like, I don't know, next day or maybe next year, whatever. And he's such a big dude, like, he's not really drinking either. I mean, he doesn't really drink. And it's packed. And he just, like, walks straight, never moves. And you just see, like, the seas just part for him. So we're just all kind of stand behind him.
It's the best way to do it.
And I was like, is that what, I remember asking him, going like, is this what you always do? He's like, yeah. What do you mean? I was like, God damn. Like, you son of a bitch. That's like,
I mean,
it's like you could just feel the aura. It's not like there's not bigger people to him, but it was just like literally like partying the seas. And it was like this, trying to walk through.
I remember that.
And we're just like walking behind.
I'm a super
like in the wake
dude.
of a boat.
Yeah, but the Danny's thing, that matters. You know, like everybody, you always got to remember those that died in the process. And like there's some friends there. I mean, my youngest son's named after Remington Peters, and he passed away. And you know, you go in there, and I remember the first time, like, you know, KG was in there, and I was actually in there with some people, and I'm sitting there at the bar, and I was like, I need 5 beers, and there's nobody in the bar.
Yeah.
And they were like, okay, and I did beer and shot. It's kind of the standard, right? And then I put it in front of their picture, and then I do my beer and my shot. And you know, it's you know, they're such great guys, and like you spend some time with them, you just laugh at the stories, and you definitely, it's sad, and you're brokenhearted about it, but their families is more brokenhearted than I am. But you know, the memories of those guys never need to die. They never need to not live on. And you know, what they sacrificed and gave was more than anybody can ever understand. And the way they went about their business was so professional, and all those guys were just world class. And so, you know, a beer and a drink with a couple hours with your buddies is really important. Just to kind of sit down and remember, like, dude, I remember jumping on bars all those days and having a great time, right? And it was a blast. But you just want to slow it down and just relive some of it. And it's important for me, at least, and I do it all the time. I still think about those guys all the time. But to remember that and never forget your roots and that stuff is vital. And I was, you know, but I will say this, and I was young in all of this, and there was a couple guys that died in one of my earlier deployments. And, you know, one of my old guys came to me, and he was just like, hey, man, y'all can't be sad about this. Y'all are younger in this. He's been doing it for 10, 20 years, whatever. And he was just like, you're in the profession of death. Don't be surprised when it happens. Right. Jesus. And like when you're 24, 25 and you're on a couple combat deployments or whatever, and all of a sudden you're like, oh man, like, yeah, I am in that profession, and this is the outcomes of that profession. Yeah. You know, and like, but what I can tell you is this, all my dudes that, you know, passed away, that died, they went out doing what they freaking loved. Yeah. Right. You know, you talked about Chuck and all that. Like, that dude was a straight savage with this stuff. And he went out doing exactly what he wanted to do. Yeah. And I had a bunch of friends in that because it was SEAL Team 1, and I was at SEAL Team 1 right before that. And, you know, he did the righteous stuff. Like, he put himself in a bad position to ensure that people lived. And he put himself in a position to send it to the enemy. And as an operator and as a warrior, I can't think of any other way that I'd want to go.
Yeah.
You know, like I hope whenever I do go, I'm in a sleep and I'm dreaming about getting after it with the enemy.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, right, but
How many deployments were you on?
I did 4 deployments. I did 3 full deployments and then 1 kind of shorter deployment.
And is there a time frame of like once you get into the SEALs that you have to be in for X amount of years, or?
Yeah, so when you first join the military, if you make it through BUD/S, you have to do a 6-year contract.
Okay.
So 6 years typically gets you 2 deployments because we have really long training cycles, like I said earlier. And then you can kind of put yourself in a position to do more. And I raised my hand for some things and kind of went back overseas faster than maybe some because I only did 10 years and I did 4 deployments. And so unless you're like at SEAL Team 6, their cycles are faster. But, you know, I tried to raise my hand. I wanted to go to war, man. Like there was nothing more for me than putting on the kit, getting on a helicopter, throwing on night vision, and like landing in bad guy land, hopping off the helicopter leave, and then it's deathly silent.
Like that adrenaline is just,
like,
or is it even? I don't even know if you'd call it that.
You can't. Like at a certain point in time, it also kind of slows down a little bit. But like, there's something about like sitting there and like listening to nothing, because after the helicopters leave, you always stay where you were, and like listening to nothing. And then looking around on night vision and looking at dudes that you trained really hard with and had done some really righteous stuff with, and looking at these dudes and be like, we're here for one real reason, right? And like you're looking at these guys that are young and fit and hard and ready to go, and you know you're moving with purpose and you're moving in a manner like walking through the crowd. The reason we do that is because we move with purpose, we move with intensity, we move with direction. Like I stare you in your eyes when you look at me. Like I am a man of purpose in that regard. And at nighttime in Iraq or Afghanistan or wherever you are, after that helicopter leaves, it's you and them against whoever comes.
Yeah.
So be ready for that.
Does there ever come a moment where you're like, I don't know if we should have been dropped off here? Or when you get done, you're like, man, I'm not sure we should have done that, or I'm not sure why we were just in this situation, and not from like a going like you're going against like your orders, just being like, whoa, that wasn't quite what we thought, maybe.
For sure. I mean, like I think the longer you're in, the more you're like, what exactly are we doing here? What's going on here?
Okay, so I was trying to get at.
Yeah. Like what's the purpose of this? You know, like okay, bad guys got it, cool.
Yeah.
But like, who are these? What is really happening here? You know, the SEAL teams, especially at a certain level of the SEAL teams, you make really big ripples. So like when you throw a rock in the water, it's a big ass ripple, and it impacts a lot of people after you, right? And not everybody needs to know what we're doing, and that's one thing that drives me nuts. Everybody's like, "Oh, we're doing all these things. I need to know." And I'm like, who are you? What clearance do you have? You're like Joe Dirt from down the street. Shut your fucking mouth.
Yeah.
Like, let us go do our jobs, and you look at the outcomes of that, and you say thank you because you've been protected by the men who wear fucking scary faces, right? And that's a big thing for me. But anyway, like, yes, there were 100% times where you're like, what exactly is happening here? But then there were times where you're like, this is righteous.
Yeah.
And these guys earned it. And here you are. You know what I mean?
But is there a time, like, when you get dropped off by the helicopter in where you're supposed to be, is it just, do you know at a certain time things are about to happen, or you're just sitting there in the dark, just kind of, like, how does that play out?
Yeah. So like you're briefed on a mission, right? So like you get your orders, night orders, and then you run up your concept of operation and your mission set or whatever. And you know, you're there for a reason, right? So there's multiple types of missions that you might do. It might be, you know, surveillance or extension of white space, or it might be a direct action mission, or it might be whatever it is, right? Recon, whatever. And so like when you're going on that, you kind of have an expectation and understanding of what you're doing. Yeah. Like you don't just get dropped off in the middle of the desert and like walk north. Like
we're going to be here an hour.
Yeah,
or
no. Yeah, I mean, you don't know all that sort of stuff. Like prepare for the unknown in that regard for sure. But like you're there for a reason. You know, that was the one difference between like us and like maybe like the Marine Corps and all that sort of like just younger grunts and all of it. Like we didn't just like go to go. Like we had a reason to go. And sometimes you did, but like, you know, we were really trying to push out, and we were trying to inflict harm on the nation's enemies and people that brought threats to the people that we cared about. And at the end of the day, like we were moving with purpose. Like you had your missions. Sometimes those missions though went to crap, and you were like, "Well, we're going over here," and it changed, and the contingencies had to get kicked in. And sometimes you were out there, and you're like, "Man, we're doing what? We're going from house to house. Like, what's this?" You know?
Yeah.
And then sometimes you got dropped off, and all of a sudden, the bad guys had a vote in that too, and
They were ready for you.
they might have been ready for you too,
Yeah.
right? And violence, we always say, you know, meet violence with a lot more violence.
Yeah.
You throw a rock, I drop a 500-pound bomb, right? So like we had to be in that situation. So you're constantly in this alert stage of mental like awareness, situational awareness. You know where your team is, you know how you're moving, you hear things. Like I hear things nowadays, and I'm like, oh. And it like sends me back to a weird moment, right? And like, but I can't hear, which is funny. And so like, anyway, so.
But that's one of the hard, but then that's also one of the hard pieces to transition back to like civilian life.
Yep.
Because you're always, you're trained to be on such high alert.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, being on alert and being like, I think that's probably the hardest thing. Like most people meet me and they're like, man, you're so intense. And I'm like, yeah, I am, but I'm also not. Like, you just don't know me well enough yet. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like,
you're kind of just quiet.
Yeah, just quiet. I'm my own business. You know what I mean? I walk on the edges of the buildings, and the skin of the house or the edge of the building, and I move with a purpose. And if I don't see people I know, or I'm not going to go sit in the middle of the room, I can tell you that, right?
Right.
And so like I just mind my own business. Yeah. And I think people think of that a lot of times as like, because they know like, oh, you're a Navy SEAL, like he's over there thinking about war, and it's like, no, I'm actually just like watching what's going on.
Like, I was thinking about how my couch feels, why I have to be here.
I was like, man, who's getting nachos later?
This is not quite. Yeah. So you've so right now you're with DBM.
Yep.
And so you've transitioned, but it hasn't always been like so easy. Like you said, you're trying to figure out which job you were going to do, and then you went went to Harvard and did the executive program there.
Yep.
And when you came back, did you have to go to like job interviews like everybody else, or did like someone go, oh wait a second, this guy's resume, or hey, you need to talk to Thomas because you need to hire this dude?
Yeah, I mean, our resumes are stupid. Like no one understands it. Like I remember, I was a Navy SEAL. I did X, Y, and Z, and even if you like wrote everything you did, they'd be like, I have no idea what this actually says, right? And so, like, I tell people all the time, I'm like, my first job, I need the community to support me on. My second job, I'll probably get that through the community as well, but it's because I've started to meet people and it's not a handout. After that, it's on me. I'll build a resume of work and responsibility and respect that allows me to go get my own job. But at first it was like that. And I've been super blessed to have an amazing community, but there was a lot of intentionality around that too. Like when I got out, I knew that I didn't have a brand. I knew that I didn't have like a voice or a story. I didn't want to tell the Navy SEAL story. I really don't want to. That's not my it's my story to tell because it's mine, but it's a weird story to tell. And so I never really knew how to do it. And so I needed some help early on for sure. But like I said, I've been blessed to have amazing civilian friends that have kind of helped guide me and mentor me and support me. In all of that, and now, yes, I work for DBM Global. We're a big construction company. We own a bunch of different companies. We're actually a holding company that oversees, 5 or 6 companies in the space, and we do big, heavy commercial and industrial projects. And it's interesting. When I first got out of the Navy, I was like, I want to be in the finance, and I don't know what the heck that actually means, but like I want to be in finance, right? And I had no clue. What I found was that construction was like an amazing outlet for me because like it's very similar to the military. It's kind of rough and rugged and it's fun and you can talk shit and you can have fun with it. And it's also business. It's like the truest form of business, like down to the material pricing on every nail, right? And so like you learn a lot about business. And the DBM team is outstanding. Like my boss, Rustin Roach, and my counterparts with the guys there are just such incredible people. I tell people all the time, I'm like, man, I got out of the platoon space. I've been searching for that platoon space since I got out of the Navy, and I'm fortunate enough to walk into another platoon space with DBM. Yeah. I'm blessed that I get to work with these guys, but I oversee sales and kind of revenues and pre-construction for all the different companies, and getting to work with these people that I get to work with, the men and women are just outstanding people. And I think that's really helped me in the transition now that I'm in a leader level, because like I first got out, I thought I had to be this tough Navy SEAL, all this badass all the time. But then I realized, like, man, I actually just really care about these people and I want the best for the company. And that's given me a sense to like take the skills I learned as a leader in the military and apply them into business in a manner that has transformed a lot of, conventional thinking on leadership and process and workflows and outcomes, right?
Well, I mean, what we were talking about earlier, just from the AI side of things, and you're talking about your meetings that you have and how intentional they are. I mean, it's obviously you've taken some of the information that you've learned in the military and applied it to your current job, and you've been able to use some of the AI technology to kind of help create your days and the structure and detail of workflow, and then like make sure that everything is like, you have a meeting last week and you're going to have a meeting next week, and you know exactly what you're going to talk about next week based on this meeting because the notes that were taken from this. I mean, everything is structured. And you told a story about like your boss asking about one of your guys, and you could give him an answer like that with all the information that he wants because that's how detailed you are. And I said out there to everybody out there, it's like you never know how smart your friends are. This has happened so many times to me when I've done, even my college roommate, my guy, like one of my best friends, Max Hansen, where I'm talking to him and I'm looking at him going like, dude, I lived with you. Like, dude, I know you were smart, but like he's very, very intelligent. And as we grow, obviously it's nice to see our friends, but we had a conversation when you first shaved your beard, I think maybe a year and a half ago or something, and you told the same story about like identity. I remember things. You said it earlier about your NFL identity, right? And then you had a beard. It wasn't like this big old beard, by the way. It was just a beard. And you said that you had a business coach or a coach of some sort that said like you need to work on your who you really are. Who's your identity? It's not get over just the Navy SEAL thing. Like you are a Navy SEAL, cool. But like is that your identity for your whole identity? And you had shaved and you're like, I'm dressing different. Like I'm doing these things and like you like this is not somebody that you're like, oh yeah, you were definitely a Navy SEAL. Yeah. No, we're like you were a punter. Yeah, a badass punter. So that's gonna lead me into the faith thing you kind of got into earlier too. It's like we don't talk a ton, but I think we have deep conversation when we do talk, and I understand a lot of things, and I see some of these journeys that you go on because you do them very like silently, but like I can see them happening, and because we have a mutual friend that's been guiding you kind of on this religious path or Christianity, and you're kind of doing that alone too. Like you're kind of doing it on the outskirts, like we're like, it's not like you're going and telling everybody, hey, guess what I'm doing now. Yeah. It's not that you weren't religious before, but like this is something that you're on a path doing, and talk to us a little bit about how that happened.
100%. And so first of all, Max is a very smart dude. I've listened to a lot of his stuff, but he actually has a buddy, and he does a podcast with a dude named Andy Muir. Yeah. With Whole Purpose. The purpose. Life on Purpose. Yeah, the whole pursuit, whole purpose. And I did that with him.
Oh, you did? Okay.
And it was so incredible.
Yeah.
Like when I was trying to figure out who I am as a leader, and you go through transitions of life and stages of seasons and all that, and Andy was like one of the most thought-provoking guys I'd ever met in my life, and he made me go through this I went through this 13-week process with him. And it was the most outstanding self-reflection period I've ever had in my entire life. And that was like that time period. I shaved and I was like, you know what? Like, if I still am looked at as the Navy SEAL guy 10 years after I've been out of the Navy, or 8 years after I've been out of the Navy, like, have I progressed?
Yeah.
No. Like, I still am trying to be that guy that's back in the day. Now, if that's who I am, that's fine. But, like, at the end of the day, like, I'm trying to be the best version of myself, and I'm trying to evolve and grow and become better and become more purpose-driven. And so, like, I went on that journey with him, and at the end of the day, man, like, I can honestly say that 13-week cycle that I went and worked with him was one of the most life-changing moments I'd had. And in conjunction with it, I started this faith-based journey with, my wife actually is the one. she's like, you got to change. Like, you're in a dark place. And I was like, no, I'm not. I'm doing successful. She's like, no. Mentally, you're in a dark, dark space. And the way it all came together was I was doing that. And then my wife was like, you're going to church with me. And I was like, come on, man. Like, I don't know if I really want to do this. Like, church, cool, great. Here we are.
Yeah.
And I walked in, and I went to Trinity Church here with Mark Driscoll. And I walked in, and there's this huge lion face up by the pulpit, up in the stage. And this dang lion is just staring at me. And I'm like, whoa, that's different. Like, what is this lion? Like, what are we talking about here? And I'm staring at this lion, and it's staring back at me. And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, why are you staring at me, lion? Like, I'm a lion too. Who are you? And I'll never forget this. And then Mark gets up there and starts preaching. And he starts preaching about the Middle East, and he starts preaching about warriors, and he starts preaching about kind of the Hamas conflict that was going on at the time, and this war and this thing. And all of a sudden, I'm like crying. I'm like super emotional, and I'm like, man, what is going on? And so I was like, what's happening here? And then I leave there, and there's this other guy who was a warrior at that church who served in the military. His name's Caleb. And my wife had kind of set this up for us to meet, and I didn't know this. And I had this huge beard. I'm standing outside, and he walks up to me, and he goes, you're the lion I'm looking for.
Wow. And
I was like, whoa. I was like, who are you? And he goes, I'm Caleb, and I know your wife, and she told me to come find you, and you're pretty easy to find. And I was like, yeah, for sure. And then he started just kind of walking me down this path, right? And what was interesting is, I don't know why, maybe I'm what it is, but as I started going down the path of reading the Bible and getting more involved in faith and everything, these obstacles would present themselves. And that was very much like, something's happening here. And somebody doesn't want me to go down this path. And being a warrior, I wanted to be a warrior for faith and for God.
Yeah.
And honestly, like, I've always really struggled with PTSD. I've always really struggled with like imposter syndrome and not being good enough, and like all the things I think most people struggle with. But like, everybody's always like, how do you do that? Because you have this incredible NFL, Navy SEAL, Harvard business, big leader in a business. Like, how can you have imposter syndrome? And it's like, I've just never felt good enough. And my walk with faith has allowed me to like relinquish a lot of that and be like, you know what? I'm not worried about it. Like, I'm here for a reason. I'm going to be a father, and I'm going to be a husband, and I'm going to be a leader in society. But at the end of the day, I have to have my heart filled with Jesus, or it's all for what? And I've been on that path in the past like 2 years, year and a half. And our mutual friend, he and I talk a lot about it. We work together, so we talk a lot about it.
Yeah.
And it's actually been the most honest, open time of my life where like I can admit my faults, I can admit my struggles and my challenges, and I'm super open about it. And I'm not here to maybe change everybody's life or anybody's life. I'm on the periphery is how I move. It's just who I am. But at the end of the day, like, if my actions can be clear enough for people to see that there's a change happening in my life and they can impact somebody, then great. Mm-hmm. And through my walk with faith. And I actually told Andy, like, he was like, so, what does it look like when you leave? Like, what's your legacy? And I was like, look, man, like, not a lot of people are going to go to my funeral. I'm okay with that. But a lot of people are going to be impacted by my life. And I don't know exactly what that means yet. I'm still on that journey. But I can tell you this is the clearest my mind has ever been and focused I've ever been. And it's not because I did any journaling or cold plunging in the morning. It's because, like, I just asked for help.
Yeah. I mean, you can see it. You just seem clearer. I don't know. Just not even like, I wouldn't say nicer, but just like, just kind of focus and like intentional and just, it's just doing your thing. But like, you kind of move, like you said, like it's the beat of your own drum, and like, you don't really care if everybody's at ACC hanging out and doing something. And if you do, you're coming out for a little while and you'll be like doing your own thing. You'll be like, and then you kind of do, you're not looking for like, you want to have to be involved in all the things and do the things that everybody's doing. Yeah. You want to do the things that you want to do when you want to do them, at your own pace and do the right thing most of the time. Yep. But I think people see it because I've been in conversations with people talking about it. And I think your focus right now is so good that it's noticeable.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah, it's
good.
like a very clear, peaceful, like confidence that you just.
Yeah, I mean, like you're speaking even like today. You're just the words coming out of your mouth have just flowed. I don't even think you said a pause or an and or a but today.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? I mean, it's just like a.
I don't know.
And
That's awesome.
you're not perfect. Like, let's be right.
100%, dude. But
And
I think at the end of the day, like that whole thing is like, for me at least, is there's a lot of clarity. Like, all I'm trying to be is the leader of my household. I want to be a great husband.
yeah,
I want to be a great father. I want to be a great follower of Jesus and my relationship there. And like, I don't need to prove anything to anybody. Like, I just need to do what I need to do to ensure that I am happy, proud of everything that I'm doing.
yeah, you're doing it for yourself at this point. In your
Well, I'm
family.
doing it, yeah, family. And like, I have a lot of great friends, and like a lot of people I know that are super rad, and they choose different life paths. But that doesn't mean I can't be friends with them.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's a big misconception. I'm a Christian. I need to not go hang out with these guys. It's like, why not?
Yeah.
I still my homies, and maybe they learn something. Maybe we can teach each other something about where we are in life. And at some point, my dad used to always say, like, be nice to everybody on the way up because you're going to see them on the way down. And at the end of the day, like, I want to make sure that the people I surround myself with are abiding by the same kind of philosophies I am. But then the people that I love to be connected to are seeing that, hey, maybe there's a different way. Maybe there's a better path. Maybe there's a conversation that could be had. Whatever that is.
So this was a quote that came in our research, and we'll kind of close with this. Let's see. So because it's going to be posted on the 4th, Trey, make sure that we have this ready to go. So, not a quote. So this is what it basically said. This would be something great to ask you. It's the 4th, and people are listening with their families, and fireworks are coming later today, tonight. What do you want them to carry into the day that they probably aren't thinking about?
That's a really good question. I mean, I think it's a couple-fold. I think one, remember how the Republic was created. Remember how the flag became in existence, the Constitution, and the people that developed that, and the freedoms that they created through all this, and why the country was made. And then remember the who that has allowed it over the past 250 years to sustain that greatness. Right? It's not the politicians and the congressmen and the senators and the president. It's the everyday person that straps on their boots, jumps in their truck, and heads out and does what they need to do to come back to make sure that their ecosystem is taken care of. That flag doesn't represent one section of government. That flag represents every human that calls himself an American. And I think that, like, if everybody can just think clearly about the greatness that this country is, and do we have bad black eyes here and there? 100%. Who doesn't? But the greatness this country
That was black eyes, by the way.
But the greatness of this country is in the people that do the day-to-day, everyday building of it. It's something that I wish people could look at more and be more thankful of, because it's not black, white, green, blue. It's red, white, and blue. And at the end of the day, we're all brothers in this and all sisters in this. And I just hope that people can kind of get past the polarization of the diversity of it all, and just understand that hopefully you're doing your actions for the right reasons. Right. And I think that's really important. I'll say this, and one of the things I think the American flag stands for is you're not a victim. Think of yourself as a victor. Eliminate the victim mentality and be a victor, because that flag sure as crap doesn't stand for victim.
Yeah.
That flag stands for victors, and people that were willing to put it on the chopping block to ensure that we have the freedoms that we have.
Damn. Well said. I just want to throw this out here. The SEAL It's the Seal
Future
Free.
Foundation.
Say it again. Seal Future Foundation. Seal Future Foundation. There's the Veteran Crisis Line. There's people out there to support people that are struggling. Everybody, if you don't care about veterans, then you're out of your mind. 100%. I think this country is full of support for veterans, and all we want to do is feel that we're taking care of them in the proper way. And I just don't necessarily think that we do in the full impact that we should. So, again, dude, thank you so much for coming. This is probably my best one I've ever done. I'm not kidding, dude. Like, you're awesome. Lucky to be here. Trey? I mean, fuck, dude. I'm sorry. You were so good.
That's awesome. It was awesome to be here. Like, you never know what you're walking into. I don't do these very often. Like, I'm not the SEAL that typically is writing books or doing podcasts, but like, this was rad, man. Your questions were insightful and thoughtful and awesome.
I really, really appreciate it. So, Thomas Olmsted, my friend, former Navy SEAL, former punter. And he is the senior vice president of sales at DBM.
Yes, sir.
There you go, boy.
Are you the only Navy SEAL that's a punter, you think?
Yeah, because Navy SEALs are way cooler than punters, dude.
All right, we're done. He played soccer in high school, too, dude.
I did. 100%.
So he's got a big leg, dude. It's all good.
Exactly. Dude, that was rad.
That was awesome,
thank you very
dude.
much.